This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks. We are having a fun Monday hair day with our good friend Jody Merrill from the Boston
Say
area.
what?
Say what? We're on audio and we're also on video, so check it out now because it's not going to be the same tomorrow. Now, is it? So Jody and I have been friends for a long time. She is in the Pilates space with BTone up in Boston. She is growing like a wildfire, and we are helping her out on the growth trajectory. So, Jody, welcome to your first Halo Talks.
Thank you, Pete. Be gentle.
Okay, no problem. So let's talk about how you got into this crazy industry and how we've roped you in for a career and how things kind of started off and then, getting through COVID and now coming out the other side.
Yeah, so I know you were just in San Diego. That is kind of where this all started for me. My husband and I like to make life-altering decisions at all times. And right after we got married, his company was like, oh, maybe we'll go to San Diego. And I was like, we volunteer. We had just bought a house, just got married. We're like, let's sell the house. Let's go out there, start over. I was a speech therapist at the time. Loved that career. Still love to dabble in it a little bit. And I was training for triathlons and marathons and was basically always injured. So I was raising money for the team in training. I lost my mom at 50. So this was like right after. And she had multiple myeloma. And I just kind of, in grief state, just found running as a therapy, even though I avoided it like the plague my whole life, playing soccer and like thumbing rides instead of having to do long runs. So I was out there and my coaches were like, what's harder than endurance training is doing it injured. And I knew that for a fact, but it really was like absolutely probably the biggest life change for me, changed the direction big time. Like life could have gone a very different direction during that time. I was 23, like young and impressionable. And I found a class like that. And it was a Pilates class. Coach said, why don't you go work on your core? I'm like, how much more could I be doing? I had just done a half Ironman and that took me like 9 hours. I was like, I'm in the best shape of my life yet. Wow, this workout like absolutely clicked right away. Like I was like, this is what they mean when they're saying to work your core. Okay, I get it. But I hated it. It was so hard for me. It was really challenging, but I kept at it. I went twice a week. I was doing like 2-a-days, training with my team in the morning, going to class at night, vice versa. And it really was the first time that like I went for a long period of time without like throwing my back out and pain. Amazing. And starting at a start line like without an injury was like, wow, this is amazing.
How many days a week were you doing the workout?
I really did it twice a week. And that's really still kind of my sweet spot because then I still have time to do other things that I like. So it's more like a routine that I do so that I can feel it in the other aspects of my life.
Right.
Instead of like going every day. It really was never something that you should be doing every day because you're working to muscle failure.
And you actually met Sebastian at the time?
Yeah, so there was at the time that was like it was Megaformers. It was a pro former that I was on like their very first version. And they weren't on the East Coast yet. And I just went and sat with the couple that owned the studio that I went to. I was like, what do I need to do this? Because we were thinking about moving back. And I was like, I want to do something really different. My mom, her parents had left me a little money. I took care of them while they were still alive. And when they passed, they left me a little bit of money. And to me, it was like life-changing. I'm like, what am I going to do? It was $250,000. I'm like, what am I going to do with $250,000? We could get a house, but like, that's so boring. Let's just like, let it ride. I loved the craps table. I'm like, I want to do this. I just started running numbers and just put a pen to paper and asked them, I'm like, what do I need? And they were like, you just need a set of balls. I was like, I got that. That's easy. Let's do this. How hard could this be? That's awesome. Like 6 months later, I was open with my first location back outside of Boston.
And then when did the name come about and where did it come from?
So at the time, everybody was naming these Pilates Plus, like where you were. I didn't know where I was going to end up. So I was Boston Pilates Plus for like the first year and a half or so.
Okay.
I got it was a very confusing time. This was 2010. So there were no boutique gyms around, some yoga studios, a couple Pilates studios, but really it just wasn't a thing. So you're educating people on what this is. And I had a really hard time trying to educate people on what something was by saying what it wasn't.
Right.
And we were trained like, it's not Pilates, it's not Pilates. Well, then why is it in the name? I'm like, that's such a good question. And actually, when we were looking for a second location, it just kind of took off. And I had met at the time, like, the only person I knew that had like multiple locations was this woman, Lynn Bagier. She was still a mentor to me, who owned a number of yoga studios. And she's like, I love this workout, but like, I don't want to come to Lexington. You got to come to the city. And, my landlord has a space available. So that's kind of how I fell into my space on Newbury Street, where we still are. And that to me, there was a Boston Body Pilates. And that would be confusing. I'm like, wait, we're going to be like on the same street. Right. I can already tell this is like contentious with the traditional Pilates world. Like, let's just name our own thing. I was going to actually be BTone, and there was a pizza place though on Newbury Street, which now in retrospect, I'm like, great, because I didn't really foresee being outside of Boston. I didn't have this big picture in my mind at the time. And my last name was Bonomo. I wanted to hang on to bees. My mother was Betty Lou. My dog was Belle. My husband was Brian. I'm like, hanging on to bee. Let's just go BTone.
That's great.
And that's when we made the change. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've been most excited about that have happened since you took this leap?
Yeah. I mean, I never, ever envisioned my life to be like this, ever. I joke, I go back to where I went to college, Providence College, in a couple of weeks, and like speaking to their business department. And I'm like, you have no idea what a screw up I was in college, right? Like, I took one business
so
class.
Honest. You're so blatantly honest all the time.
Is there any other way to be? Like, I went into the dean and I was like, I got to drop this class. And they're like, why? I'm like, I am never going to need this shit in my life. Like, I'm going to be working in schools. I work with kids. This is what I'm going to do. Like, I just don't see it. And the first thing I did that day in San Diego, and I say the story all the time, the first thing I did was call my friend from that class that I was supposed to be writing a business plan with. And I was like, can you send me the business plan that we were supposed to do? Yeah. Send it to me now. So now just kind of like
the template.
Yeah.
Like that. Mm-hmm. That's so
that is what I used. I still go back to it like to this day. But just kind of being in that position of a place I never financially thought I'd be, physically, in the role I'm in. It's really cool. It's been real, like, to me, building the team around me, and it was never needed to be about me. I wanted to take that out as much as possible. So really now, like, having built a company that like stands on its own, and like I'll be traveling and I'll see some random person with a BTone shirt on. I'm like, holy shit. And I'll start peppering them with questions, like pretend I'm just like someone who goes there. And then I'm like, oh, I'm actually the founder. And they're like, holy shit. So it's real. It's just, cool. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. Yeah.
So when you look back to your younger self, the speech pathologist, do you say like, hey, I can kind of be whatever I want to be?
Yeah. I mean, to me, when I ever thought of like success, it was just like being happy at what you were doing and doing it like the best you could do it. So I was like always this kind of like jack of all trades, master of none. I wanted to learn a little bit of everything and just dabble and understand how things worked. But ultimately I was like a communicator and a people person. And as long as you can connect with people, that's really what we're in the business of doing. And then I joke because I'm like, I spent 10 years in like special ed basically. And there I am teaching a class with like 12 different people of different levels. And I'm like, you're all in IEPs. You just don't know about it. You have different long-term goals. But like, if you can follow like a clear, concise, single step direction, you can get through this class. I promise you. So we still I just love being able to kind of take everything of behavioral modification and using it in the general day-to-day and helping people shape a different part of their life.
Awesome. So when did you know it was time to open up a second corporate location? And then when did franchising kind of dovetail into that timeline?
Yeah. I went and got a loan with the money that I had. and just not knowing. Like people prepared me, like just be prepared. Everybody told me not to do it, like that I was absolutely crazy. I was like doing it right after, like kind of in the middle of the recession. Um, and to me, I was like, I'll just, whatever. Like I didn't have this money before and I'm just going to let it ride and figure it out. I did always want to have a couple locations. I didn't know if I'd be in the city first or suburb first, but I wanted to have like both experiences. Even when I was in the schools, I liked to be at different schools and different places and kind of bop around. And I didn't have to touch my loan money. So that was really what led me. I thought in my head, like I always had this number, when I get to like 150,000 saved, I'm going to go and open another location. So that was really kind of what I had. And then when that, it just sort of, it was probably like about 9 months later, my team wanted to grow. That was huge. There's only like X amount of hours in the day that you can do these classes, right?
How far away
and we
the
had
2
10
locations?
spots.
How far are the 2 locations?
They're probably like, like 20 minutes.
So that's perfect from a standpoint.
That's usually my like rule of thumb. Yeah. Getting more hours and more exposure. We were going up to like a second floor, so I knew it was gonna like take a little longer, be a little harder. And now I'm like going into the city where I'm going to be playing with, the bigger names. But that was really like, to me, I kind of listened to people of where are they coming from? Where are my staff coming from? Where am I kind of feeling pulled from? But I fell into a lot of the spaces. I had like a contractor I used who was like walking by my North End location and saw it and called me like, what do you think about North End? I'm like, I don't know. Let me come down and see. So I really got roped into that kind of like real estate aspect of it pretty quickly, of realizing like that was key. That keeps like so many people from opening another location, is just that roadblock of finding it, getting the landlord. I mean, I ended up in Lexington. I was supposed to be somewhere else. And the landlord just freaked out last minute and was like scared that I was like a first timer. And he's like, no, I'm not giving you the space. I'm like, I got equipment coming in like a month. What do you mean?
You got a signed
so I had to
lease?
pivot. We were like, I had the lawyers all done. We were going to sign that lease. I had already ordered equipment, like everything. And yeah, they got cold feet. So it was like, I got to have like my Julia Roberts moment years later when they called on a space. And I'm like, oh, do you not remember me? Like, big mistake. They were trying to, huge. Yeah, they're trying to get me another space. And I'm like, well, that ship has sailed.
Well, there's really no substitute for walking a location. There were these guys that I used to work with in the health club industry, this guy named Paul and Mark, and they would sit on a street corner with those little pedometers, like the ticker. And they would just sit there for like a week and decide if that was a good health club or not based on the foot traffic. It was before all the technology you can use, but you don't make mistakes when you actually sit there for like a week or two.
And that is like, when you ask, why did I do franchising? Well, essentially I got all my territory sold out from under me when I was working with a prior company. So I was like, well, this doesn't work. Like, I just need the equipment. So I need to go get I can't let another company tell me where I can grow, what I can do. Like, that makes no sense to me. Business to me needed to be a little more black and white. It was feeling really gray. And I'm like, this does not work for me. My mantra is like, it's kind of simple. It's like, don't be a dick.
And you can say that. You can say that on Halo Talks. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, I mean,
there you go.
Don't be a dick. That's it. And then I just started looking around at like, what were the options? My husband laughs because I'm like, I take a bath almost like every night. And he just like, the way he found out about all this was he comes home and I'm in the bathtub and I'm reading a book. He's like, what are you reading? I was reading Franchising for Dummies. Like, I just went and got books. And I was like, those yellow books. I'm like, this sounds like it could be the option for me. So it was like, I could either go the licensing route or the franchising route. At the time, there were a lot of other franchises. That was all that was coming in. The Pure Bars, the Club Pilates, the Cycle Studios. So I'm like, we are going up against really big companies with a lot of money backing them. How are we going to do this? And I wanted people to have a connection where they were opening. Like, there's something about the owner being involved in there when you're starting
Definitely.
a business. Like people get really invested. They wanted to see me succeed, right? So like a lot of that success comes from like all the people around you. And having that like community connection
Sure.
is you need it. You need it. And like when COVID hit, like we needed it big time, as well as those like relationships with landlords. So to me now, it's like that location is everything.
Yeah. You know, the one thing that you did have versus some of these other like well-backed franchise operators was you have unit economics that actually make sense.
Yeah.
And some of these other concepts, I think franchise way too early, you know, without having like an actual playbook. Where
I was
you do now.
I was shocked. I would go to franchise meetings and people would be there like talking about their franchise, but they had it was a concept. I'm like, you're selling these as how do you do that? I was really like I had basically done around 7 locations myself, so everyone was asking me, "Oh, are you a franchise?" And I was like, "What? Why are they asking me this? I don't get it. I'm not McDonald's." Like that was the connection. I'm like, "What do they think of Dunkin' Donuts?" And then I started thinking about it, and people coming to me like one of the first calls was like from someone from Dubai. Like I'm in Boston all summer. I want to open one of these in Dubai, and I'm like, how the heck would we do that? It wouldn't make sense to go and spend X amount of money on this license, and then you have to spend it on this equipment, and then you're going to pay me because this is going to be expensive for me to set this all up and then support you and create all that. But I had the playbook. So that was really what I kept getting pulled back into that franchising piece. And I sold like 5 right away to instructors of ours. And like still to this day, like 80% of our franchisees were instructors who were clients first. So like we have this kind of, I've never, been out on the site. We've never done any ad dollars to this, nothing. It's just kind of been that right person, right time. Like
the benefit of that is if you think about franchisors that fail typically have like their first 10 locations, there's like 2 or 3 that are just like cancerous and it tanks the whole system. So if you could have your instructors or members who are loyal, not just to the brand, but to you personally, right? That's
they just get it. They get it.
You don't have to like train them, right? Because they've already been trained.
Right. It's that like now there's so many concepts out there. So it's like, well, why a BTone? Like that is the first thing I ask people when they call me, like, why? And a lot of them are calling from areas where there are 4, 5, 6 other concepts. I'm like, why BTone? And they get it. Like we really never like pushed our like purpose, mission statement, vision out there because I'm like, we don't need to.
Right.
Our people know what we're doing. Right. And like back in the day, we were different. I didn't want to be this like only the hardest thing. Like it was like this traditional, we started to see more of the traditional approach and this like megaformer and solid core approach. And we weren't that. We were there before a lot of them though. So it's like, we kind of always landed in this perfect like little funnel where I'm like the majority of people out there, haven't accessed this yet. Now a lot of people have, and it's amazing, and they still come in and they're more comfortable quicker. But for the most part, like we typically get people who have never been on a reformer, period. So they don't know why we're different than Pilates. They don't know why. So it's just like, what's the experience happening when they're there, and how do we keep them coming back?
So being a franchisor, you have to say no a lot of the time, right? To people that want to do something else inside the studio, or they want to change the pricing, or they want to buy a territory and you're not comfortable with them. So how have you gotten used to saying no? And like, how is your funnel kind of tightened over time?
Yeah. I mean, like at least we just came off kind of like a freeze. Every so often, probably once a year, I freeze everything. I'm like, we're good. Because I don't want to be like sold, not open. It just doesn't, that's never, I'm like, we can't just be focused on like the number while it's exciting. I don't really give a shit.
Right.
How many studios we have. Like,
well, it
it's
also
important
creates
because
a lot
you need
of
to know you're supported.
Yeah. It also has a lot of anxiety. Like, when's this thing going to open? I'm like, I have no idea. If you talk to investors, you talk to
we usually
parties.
have, it takes about a year from the first time I talk to people to them opening. It's like 9 months to a year. And so to me, it's like when I start speaking to people, I need to know they're patient, that they can jump when they're ready to jump. if the right spot comes, but they also have to be really patient because a lot is going to happen within that cycle of actually getting open. But it's just like the right people, again, most of them come from inside. So we know them and they know us.
Yeah.
I have a lot of like the tests I'll give after, but it's really just kind of a vibe. We get them in, they're talking to other team members, but I just want to know that they, it's like a lot of people just love it and think, I'm going to open one of these. And they don't think of all the other stuff. So you kind of have to, put it all out there to people without making them feel discouraged. I'm like, listen, I was in the same boat. Everybody told me not to do this. You have to, at some point, make your own decision and go with it and go for it. But you do need to be aware of the worst case scenarios. People always yell at me, like, you really downplay, the numbers or this and that. And I'm like, our FDD, we list every single location. There is no hiding. I'm like, I want you to see what the potential is, but also like what the reality is sometimes. And you have to be prepared for it so that you're not in a position where you have to close in a year or two.
So we've been talking about this for several months about selling area developer rights and having multi-unit operators. So, Club Pilates is basically, when it started out, just have, locations, one owner at a time. Chick-fil-A has, one owner at a time. When you think about having a larger player to, let's say, take over like all of Chicago or all of South Florida, how do you think about that? What kind of lens do you look through? And knowing that it takes a year or, 6 months to find a location, some franchisors are so wed to like, you got to hit this milestone. You got to open. It's like, well, I'm not opening unless it's the right location. So you might be like a softer, kinder, gentler franchisor because you actually operate it and not just selling franchises to sell them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this concept was introduced to me so many years ago of like area development. We had a studio out in California and she had owned a Massage Envy and a European Wax Center. And so she would pick my brain about things. And, I was really of the mindset and still am like, let's walk before we run. Right. And because a lot of the franchisees that we work with have not been in business before, 80% of them do now have multiple locations. So it's like, this is great where they're learning how to become their own CEOs and structure this out. And it makes sense and the economics of it all work. But there's something to, people who do this for a living and really know how to do it and do it well. It's just got to be the right fit. And now we're at that point where it's like, yes, we know once we go somewhere, it's a natural kind of like spreading that happens just because of how we've done it. But we do need to do it a little faster. And the biggest hurdle for people is funding. It's getting more and more and more difficult. So now it's like, even ourselves, we're thinking, how are ways we could structure this? Because you need to have like, right now I still run 3 studios up in Boston. So I have a GM and an assistant GM. Like I need people who are going to be like thinking like the owner. So we've been kind of doing it on our own too, to really like work out I like to do things myself first. Like I had a business partner for a little while. I'm like, let's figure it out. Cause there's going to be some of these franchisees that are going to want us to have a business partner. And I need to be able to speak to that. I sold 2 of my locations to franchisees. I'm like, I need to understand what a trade and a transfer looks like. So this is kind of another piece of it where now that I've met enough people in the industry to know like it isn't something to be scared of. There's a lot of people that do this and do it well. Because I personally get worried of a company coming in and kind of running it to the ground, right? Like that, you don't want that. You don't want to be like the cautionary tale. So just kind of doing it that we're still staying true to who we are. So that's why you're here. Is like, let's introduce me to some of these people that do it really well, so that there's so much open market now. Like we are really concentrated in New England and have just started to kind of spread outside. So to me, I'm like, this is the time. It's going to be easier to work with one person that has the ability to open 10 than to work with 10 different people.
Yep, agreed. Awesome. So in parting here, what's a phrase, a Jodyism that people internally hear you say all the time, or what What's something
You
that
know,
you're like, you
there's
pound
a
the
lot.
drum?
There's probably a few of them. A lot of them probably have swears in them, so I'll leave those ones out because I know my dad will probably listen to this. Don't be a dick is one of them.
Yeah,
that said a lot. That one is, you know, first and foremost. I try to get that out in like my first conversation with people. My husband works for a really large company, really large cybersecurity company. I hear things, and one of the best phrases that I heard that CEO say in that, like, listen, totally different scale, but what got us here won't get us there. And I always have to think about that because, like, just kind of where we are, how we've done things. You can't just think your way is the only way. And same with franchise. I'm like, we have to kind of constantly be looking at how did we get here? What have we done? What can we look at differently to kind of get us to the next level? Whether it's bringing in, you know, people and the human capital piece of it, but like really looking at the systems of what are we doing?
Sure.
I want my franchisees to stay happy. And then honestly, just within the teacher training aspect of it, it's really difficult. Like, it's really hard. This is a hard position to be in, right? You got to, like, you might be having the most shit day ever. And then you go in front of a class and you have to put it on and be everything for everybody. And you're not everybody's cup of tea at all times. And, you know, we have lots of feedback and you have to just constantly be getting comfortable with feedback. And oftentimes I just have to share with people. I'm like, just because someone says it doesn't make it true, right? You know who you are. You know, like, what you're conveying. You're not going to nail it every time. But just because someone says something, it doesn't make it true.
Got it. Love it.
Tell that to a lot of kids with social media too.
I like that. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Importantly. All right. Well, look, we look forward to working with you on building out the platform. We love what you've done. We think it's, you know, been very methodical and thoughtful. Thanks for telling us about your franchising for dummies in the bath. I'm glad that was part of your curriculum.
Right.
And the business plan for Providence College is now, you know, like the real deal, huh?
Yeah.
And it's not a pizza joint on Newbury
molding
Street.
the minds. No, it is not. And they weren't, you know, I think they were closed before we ever even opened. I was like, son of a gun.
Well, Boston doesn't play in certain cities, so it's probably better off that it's pizza.
Exactly. In retrospect, it worked out. Especially in the trademark area.
All right, well, welcome to the Halo Sector.
Thanks, everybody.
Officially, it's great spending time with you, and go BTone. Awesome.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, cool. Bye.
You too.
Later.
Bye.
This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks, your captain speaking. I am the founder and managing partner at Integrity Square. We've been around now for 15.5 years. We have been helping people like yourselves get capital, do mergers and acquisitions, consulting, strategic advice in the health, active lifestyle, and outdoor Halo sector, trying to help as many entrepreneurs as possible get to the next level, take that inflection point, and be the force behind your growth. We are helping companies that have at least $3 million of EBITDA, around $10 million of revenue, and we are positioned to help you get institutional growth capital or to negotiate deals with strategic partners. If you go to integritysq.com/ISQ, you can see our capabilities deck. Happy to set up a consultation at any time. That is free of charge, and we look forward to helping solve obesity, loneliness, and diabetes. Go Halo.